StampsAndScrapbooks.com, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite things, Tim's 12 tags of 2014. So I love making these tags, and you see them on my blog all the time. And I did the April tag, which is this one here. This is my interpretation. I didn't have all of the things that Tim had, so I had to improvise a little bit. So I made a video for you so you could see exactly how I did that. And the roses were done with a Stampin' Up! Spiral flower die, and I'm going to do a separate video for you so you can see that. So follow me into the studio and we'll get started. So to begin, I am using the honeycomb die, and I've already gone ahead and die cut chipboard, and then I did not have any papers, so what I used was some of my stickers from the salvage stickers, the Crowded Attic and French Industrial, and that was these. And then I cut out the grunge board and then some cork, and then this is just some craft metal, so I'm using the back because I do have the mirrored cardstock, I just don't know where it is. So I want these to be some different colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my Distress inks and I'm going to apply them to the cardstock so that I'm getting a couple of different colors on there as well as the browns. So the first one I used is Fired Brick. I'm going to come in with some chipped sapphire. Now I'm not really worried about the edges here because we're not going to be using this particular one. We're using the grunge board outside. Next, I'm going to worry about this grunge board piece because for this one we're actually using this outside piece. So I like to put these on a piece of paper so I could just push them out of the way. So for this, I'm going to dab some paint, and I do not have the colors that Tim used, so I'm going to be using Broken China. So I'm going to get this started on my craft sheet, and I'm going to dab this all over the grunge board just to color it. And as you can see, this goes on very, very quickly. So once I have that colored, I'm going to move it to the side, and I'm just going to spritz some water on here. And while I have it on there, I'm just going to take a tag, and I'm going to stick the tag in the paint because once I have paint out, I don't like to waste it. So we're just going to pick up some of that paint on our tag, and then I'm going to put that aside to dry and just mop up the rest of this. The next thing I'm going to do is take some of my tissue tape, and I'm going to be applying random pieces all over my tags. Now whenever I do one tag, I like to do two because everything is out and dirty, and so I feel like I might as well just go crazy. This way you have it when you need it. I'm going to come in with my second piece of tape, and you can go right over the other ones. So once you're happy with your tissue tape application, you're then going to come in with your next color of paint, and for this one I'm using Weathered Wood. I'm going to shake it up, which is what you do with your paints, open it up, and then I'm going to just squeeze it. Actually, I could do it right on here, get that started, and I'm going to just apply it on my tag. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to come in with your water, and you're just going to do little droplets. You don't really want spray. I like to do this and then just flick it on. Then you're going to come in and blot that off in places. And once you've done that, you're going to come in with your heat tool and you're going to dry it. Okay, now we're going to take some Walnut Stain Distress ink, and we're going to ink over this tag. And I'm going to ink over this one as well. Okay, so once I get this inked up pretty well, what I'm going to do is go back to my water, and I'm going to put a pool of it here and then just flick it onto that tag. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So it's going to remove the walnut stain ink that we just put on there, and then we're going to dry it again. Now you can certainly mop it up a little bit if it's too much for you, and then just get that nice and dry. And you can see already it has those great watermarks, and so it's resisting that paint but then the ink is leaving those delicious watermarks all over. And then we can come back in and we can certainly add more ink around those edges. You can do that as many times as you want, where you can just flick the water on to get those beautiful little watermarks. You can see them all over here. I love them. Now we're going to go to our painted piece. You never want to sand on your craft sheet. So I'm just going to put a piece of cardboard down here, and I'm going to sand this gently just to remove some of the paint, so that when I come over it again with the ink has something to stick to. I'm going to take my vintage photo now, and I'm going to be inking this with vintage photo. And I love this. It kind of gives a rusty look when you come in over the blue with the vintage photo. And I was going to use rusty hinge, but that just might be a little too much for me. I love the way this looks like it's rusted. So I'm just going to pass over it a couple more times. I don't want to get carried away and cover up all that paint. But as you can see, it resisted nicely, and then it picked it up on the pieces that we sanded away. So really cool technique. So we're going to begin to assemble this, and I think I like this tag better, so we're going to use this one. And so what I want to do is adhere part of this up here and part down here. This isn't quite as cool as the one that that Tim used. That was certainly a real funky trellis, and I would love to get my hands on it and try this again. But for now, we're just going to go with a little piece of it up here. And then this piece I'm going to adhere down here. So I'm going to go to the edge, and then I'll just cut off these pieces here. One of my favorite ways to adhere this kind of stuff is Glossy Accents, because it has this great little edge here so that I can get on all those surfaces. So you're going to apply Glossy Accents to each piece of this honeycomb before you stick it to the tag. Once I've done that, I like to use my paper piercer to pick it up so I don't get glossy accents all over myself. We're going to adhere this close to the top, and we want those little edges here on the sides. So I'm just going to hold this down for a second or two to make sure that it adheres itself. And then we're going to go to this one. Now this one I want to be a little more careful because I don't want to have glossy accents all over the place. So what we're going to do is line this up here and then come in with our scissor and cut off the pieces that we don't want. And then just do the same thing. Glossy accents and adhere. Okay, I have this on here. And I want this full piece to be closer to the top and have these broken pieces at the bottom. So that's going to take a few seconds to dry. Okay, so now we're back to these pieces. I don't need a lot of them, so I'm just going to set them up so that I know how many pieces I'm going to need. Okay, so I've laid these out the way I want to adhere them, and I think I'm happy with that. I didn't really need all of these. I went a little crazy, so we're going to save those for another project. Now I'm going to take my vintage photo and I'm going to just apply it to these pieces. Once you've done that, you can then begin adhering them, and you can do that with either your glossy accents, or you could use glue dots or whatever else you'd like. I'm going to use some glossy accents because that's what I have out on my table. Now this cork is pretty thick. It was just some cork I had laying around. I'm just going to stick that right down there. And then just go ahead and build your little puzzle. So now once you've adhered them, you're going to flip this over, and you're going to very carefully come in here, and you're going to cut off these extra pieces on the sides here. You want to wait until it's dry to do this. Once you've finished your roses, you're going to take your ink, and I'm going to take some of this tattered rose, and I'm going to sponge my rose so that it looks more pink. And then I'm going to take my scattered straw, and I'm going to sponge this one so that it has more of a yellow to it. I'm going to take some of my crinkle ribbon, and I'm going to mist it with water. And then I'm going to run some of my ink right on top of it. Once I've done that, I'm going to just crinkle it up and either heat set it or allow it to dry. Okay, I'm going to take one of my Ideology charms and I'm going to put some of this paint right in there. So I'm going to smush this in here and I'm going to rub it in with my finger because I want it to get into the grooves where those words are. Then I'm just going to wipe it off of the rest of the charm and let it stay in that groove there. I like to take Rusty Hinge and I just like to hit it a little bit with this so that it looks kind of like it's rusty. And then what I'm going to do is take these little flowers and I want to put a little blue at the end. So I'm going to come in just with some broken china and I'm just going to touch the edges there because I want to pick up some of that blue that's on the rest of this project. Okay, I used my Secret Garden die. This is a Stampin' Up! Die. It just is these leaves. And I know I have other leaves, but of course I cannot find them. So I'm just going to use these. You're only going to see a little bit of it. I'm just going to touch this with some bundled sage just to get some of this pink off of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is wrap this around. And I'm not going to adhere it yet because I'm not sure where I want it to end up. So I'm going to just wrap it around and I'm going to tie a bow. Okay, so I made these greener and I'm going to have one going this way and one going this way. And then we're going to adhere our roses. Okay, so after putting this together and looking at it, I need these leaves to be more green. So I'm going to go back to my bundled sage ink pad, and since this is all assembled I can't really use my blending tool, so I'm going to just use the brush to add the extra green to my leaves. Okay, so once I have that done, I'm going to take some of this cording here and I'm going to feed it in through the top. But before I do that, I want to cover the back of my tag. And I do this often because I don't like when the back of the tag looks all funky like that. So I've put adhesive on the back and I'm going to line the tag up so that it fits behind and then just adhere it. Once you've done that, then you can come in with your cord and you're going to go right through the front and you're going to go through the cording, and then if you pull them one at a time it's easier to tighten without worrying that you're going to tear that. So then you're going to go in with your paper piercer, and these are just kind of wound up a little bit, so you're going to just stick that in there and then pull, and then you get that kind of wiry branchy look to the cording. I'm going to take some of my Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist and I'm going to spritz it over the top of the whole thing. And then you want to come in with your little towel and you want to clean your mirrors. And I'm also going to clean this here because it won't dry on that. So as always, if you have any questions for me, I'm Kathy at stampsandscrapbooks.com.